Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Before the race, Marcus Kranksler retired from Piston Cup racing. And here is what he had to say. Team Transberry Juice found a better racer than Marcus Kranksler. And that racer is Bubba Wheelhouse, who will replace Marcus Kranksler. And he'll be a new rookie racing in the Piston Cup. And Apple found a good racer that they claim is good enough to win the Piston Cup. And as a result, Apple would fire Matthew Overdrive. And he would be replaced by a new racer called JP Drive. This is JP Drive, and he'll be a new rookie in the Piston Cup. And Rex Revler got fired by Team Gaskets and then got replaced by Dan Garcia, who will replace Rex Revler and be a new rookie racing in the Piston Cup starting this race. We're not done with the stock cars getting replaced, as Floyd Mulvihill was fired by Team Gasprin, and he'll be replaced by Richie Gunzit. And Richie Gunzit is also a new rookie. Are we done with the replacements yet? No, we aren't! Because unfortunately, while going for a ride around the track, Bruce Miller would unfortunately have a career-ending crash at the Grand Ole Oil Co. Speedway. Wait a second. There were a lot of crashes at this track. Why, Piston Cup officials, did you keep picking this track? It's so dangerous! Piston Cup officials, please take this track off the schedule. And who replaced Bruce Miller? Barry DePedal. Don't worry, he's not related to Colin DePedal, if you even know who that is. But Barry DePedal will be replacing Bruce Miller as RPM's racer. And he is yet another new rookie beginning his career this race. That makes for a total of 5 new racers this race. Enough about new racers. And here is what Billy Carjoy, an already established Piston Cup racer, who is currently out and is currently in the hospital, has to say. Hopefully Billy Carjoy's upgrade will happen very soon. Now onto the starting grid, where Jackson Storm will start at pole position again with Ryan Inside Laney, who's outside. Row 2 has Harvey Rodcap and JP Drive in his very first start. Row 3 has Tim Treadless and Ed Trumpkin, who made their debuts a few races ago. Row 4 has Pitbull Speed Racer with one of his best qualifying times ever, and Barry DePedal. Row 5 has HJ Hollis and Bubba Wheelhouse making his very first Piston Cup start. Row 6 has Green Bean Carafine and Aaron Clocker. I wonder how they'll do this race. Row 7 has 2 cars making their debut, Richie Gunzit and Dan Garcia. Row 8 has Bobby Swift and Lightning McQueen, the first 2 stock cars this race. Row 9 has 2 more stock cars, Ralph Carlo and 2-time Piston Cup champion Cal Weathers. Row 10 has Brick Yardley and Rev Rodages, who's having a good season right now. And row 11 has Ricky Axel and Todd Marcus. I wonder how they'll do this race. And row 12 has Jimmy Cables and Chip Gearings, who are having disappointing seasons right now. Row 13 has Maury Clutchburn and James Garrison to his outside. Row 14 has Cal Williams and Arthur Carstro. I wonder how they'll do this race. And row 15 has Dino Draftski and Reb Meeker, who was disappointing in practice. Row 16 has Darren Ledfoot and Jack DePost, who disappointed during qualifying. Row 17 has Brian Sparks and Buck Beeringley, who said that he was lucky to qualify this race. Row 18 has Tommy Highbanks and Paunchy Wipeout. I wonder how they'll do this race. Row 19 has Terry Cargus, who's not been having a good few races, and Bobby Rotesta. Row 20 has Dirksen D'Agostino and Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. making his second start this season. Row 21 has Ernie Gearson and Alex Bloman making his second start this season. And starting in 43rd is Lane Locke, who was very lucky to qualify, as Jamarcus Cart fails to qualify in 44th, only losing to Lane Locke by less than 2 milliseconds. Michael Botstroyer, Sebastian Silva, Frank Rumerson, and Mark Outerbreaks also had very close qualifying times. And there were also many other racers who also failed to qualify for this race, not shown on this screen. Now, let's get on to the race, where Jackson Storm would lead the first 50 laps of the race before losing the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would only lead off of pit cycles. Jackson Storm would then retake the lead and lead all the way until lap 100, where JP Drive would take the lead and lead his first 5 laps in the Piston Cup before losing the lead to Jackson Storm, who would lead for 40 more laps before HJ Hollis would take the lead from him. He would lead until lap 148, where Lightning McQueen would take the lead once again, leading until lap 149, where Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. would go down a lap as he was too slow on the track. Aaron Clocker would then take the lead off of pit cycles, and then Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. would get back on the lead lap later on lap 149. Jackson Storm would take the lead on lap 150 and lead for 50 more laps. JP Drive would retake the lead on lap 200 and lead until lap 214, where Jackson Storm would take the lead again, leading all the way until lap 260. Tim Treadless would take the lead on lap 260, but only a few yards later, Cal Weathers would take the lead from him. But then, he would lose the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would lead the field into lap 261, where JP Drive would retake the lead, leading for 4 more laps until lap 265, where Jackson Storm would take the lead again and lead for 85 laps. How does any car lead for 85 laps in a row? Jackson Storm, leave some laps for the rest of us. It doesn't matter if you're next gen, you shouldn't be able to lead for that many laps. Meanwhile, Chip Gearings would be out on lap 341 because of engine failure, and then Jack DePost, Tommy Highbanks, and Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. would all go down a lap due to long pit stops on lap 342. And now let's fast forward to the final lap, where Lightning McQueen almost passed Jackson Storm. But oh no! JP Drive threw him off! And this means that Jackson Storm wins the 2016 Frostar Air Filters 350, winning his 5th ever Piston Cup race, and also his 5th race in a row! JP Drive will finish 2nd this race, finishing 2nd in your very first race. Apple knew what they were doing. Dan Garcia will finish 3rd, Barry DePedal 4th, Richie Gunzit finishing 5th. That's 4 racers making their very first start, finishing in the top 5. Aaron Clocker will finish 6th this race, Bobby Swift 7th, Lightning McQueen 8th, Cal Weathers 9th, and Harvey Rodcap rounding out the top 10. Buck Beeringley is the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 39th. And Ernie Gearson will be retiring from Piston Cup racing, which means that the race that you just watched is the last race that Ernie Gearson took part in the Piston Cup. Ernie Gearson has had the 2nd longest Piston Cup career, with the only racer with a longer career being Slide Powers. Ernie Gearson is also the Piston Cup racer with the 2nd most starts, although he failed to qualify for a lot of races. Only Slide Powers has more Piston Cup starts than Ernie Gearson. His career began all the way back in 1973, before most of his 42 competitors were even born. And now, Ernie Gearson's Piston Cup career is coming to an end. But he's not the only one, as Bobby Rotesta will also be retiring from Piston Cup racing. His career was nowhere near impressive as Ernie Gearson's, but at least Carbon Cyber can say that he was an improvement on Matthew Philip Wheel, who was terrible for most of his career. I already made a video about that, which actually has over 1,000 views. Thank you to everybody who watched that video. Now, on to the race results of the 2016 Rust Belt 350, where 4 out of the 5 racers that finished in the top 5 made their very first start, and Ralph Carlo was unlucky not to finish in the top 10. Bubba Wheelhouse, the only racer who made his debut this race who didn't finish in the top 5, finished 17th. Although Green Bean Carafine and Pitbull Speed Racer did get a top 15 finish ahead of Ryan Inside Laney, who started on the outside pole. Darren Leadfoot, Ricky Axel, and Arthur Carstroll round out the top 20, with Ed Trunken earning 100 points this race. Jimmy Cables! What happened, man? You were doing so well earlier in the season! Behind him is Brian Sparks, Kia Williams, and Lane Locke, who started in last. He does finish 25th though. Ahead of Alex Bloman, who's replacing Dale Earnhardt Jr. right now, and Brick Yardley, and James Garrison. Dirksen D'Agostino finishes 29th, and Maury Clutchburn rounds up the top 30. Ernie Garrison finishes 31st in his final Piston Cup race. But more importantly, he finished on the lead lap, ahead of Reb Meeker, a racer in the top 20, and the other racer who just retired, Bobby Rotesta. Terry Carcass finishes 34th, and Rev Rodiches has a disappointing for this season's standard finish of 35th. Dino Draftsky, Todd Marcus, Paunchy Wipeout, and Buck Beeringly all finish on the lead lap. And here is the top 20 in points, where Lightning McQueen, Cal Weathers, and Bobby Swift are the top 3. Brick Yardley still in 4th, ahead of Jimmy Cables. Tim Treadless is the highest placed next gen in 6th, followed by Harvey Rodcap, Aaron Clocker, Ed Trunken, all next gens, and Reb Meeker, a stock car, rounding out the top 10, with Ricky Axel, James Garrison, Kevin Carvick, who's not racing right now, Jack DePost, and Martin Carrix Jr., also not racing right now, because he and Kevin Carvick are out, rounds out the top 15. 2 more next gens are next, Ryan Inside Laney and Dan Garcia. Maury Clutchburn is in 18th, Todd Marcus in 19th, and rounding out the top 20 is Ralph Carlo, who is 28 points ahead of Chip Gearings and Jamarcus Cakart, who are both tied in points for 21st.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
There were a lot of next gens who did well this race. And don't forget, they pretty much took the entire top 8 in qualifying. Who knows how many more next gens there are going to be coming up? Because other race teams would have just seen that these next gens did so well, especially JP Drive, who was actually competing with Jackson Storm in his first race. Of course Apple would find a good racer. They made the iPhone that I'm recording this video on. Comment down below who you think the next team that will hire a next generation racer. The most obvious picks are Sparrowmint and Carbon Cyber. And the 22nd race of the 2016 Piston Cup season will be coming out soon enough. Unfortunately, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine is still going on. Over 3 years later, the Ukrainian people just want to live in peace and have freedom. But this common dream was ruined by the tyrant and bully Vladimir Putin. Currently, Vladimir Putin's tyranny rules around 1/5 of Ukraine's land, including Crimea, the Donbass, and parts of the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson oblasts. And it could be worse, as every day supplies go down, both in terms of soldiers and military equipment. We here at the K Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine in their struggle against Vladimir Putin's tyranny and recognize Ukraine's true borders, as shown by this map, which includes all of the land that Vladimir Putin has taken illegally. My message to Ukraine is to not give up. Don't let Putin the tyrant have his way. Slava Ukraini! Heroyam slava, nechai shvicha Ukraini permoa. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. May Ukraine be granted victory very soon.